Well, welcome everyone to the Money Script Podcast. We have a friend of the pod here. I want to say what's up to my fellow councilman here in Grand Prairie, Councilman Junior Ezeonu. Thank you for joining us again on the Money Script Podcast. So, I mean, this is your second time around, and I want you to know, I don't know if you were a fan of Saturday Night Live, but Saturday Night Live has this thing where they, after you've hosted the show like 6 times, they like bring you this green robe, and it's kind of like WWE, where you kind of you get rewarded for being on the show so many times as a host. So just know that I think, are you our second guest other than my wife? You might be.
I deserve that green robe then.
You deserve the green robe. You know what? We might have to make that happen. So you'll probably pick up our conversation a little bit later in the show. We'll probably tack it on at the end, but we were talking about monopolies. But I do want to say one other thing about monopolies. My favorite monopoly in the United States that just tickles me every time I think of them is Greyhound.
That's a great point.
Greyhound bus has no competition.
Yeah. No major competition.
You could say that maybe no major competition. Yeah. You could say that their competition is the airplane. But here's another one. Amtrak.
In the Northeast. Yeah, I mean it's just them.
It's just them.
But isn't Amtrak is subsidized by I believe they're subsidized by the governments of different
I wouldn't
states.
be surprised if Greyhound is too. I mean, I don't know. That's something we'll look that up.
I think Amtrak is subsidized. I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I got to check. Yeah.
Oh, he's going to check it out. All right. He's fact checking us right now. So speaking of fact checking, a crazy week in these.
Amtrak,
it is.
Amtrak is taxpayer funded. Yeah. I was thinking that's
Amtrak
why
is taxpayers. So I guess they're not really a monopoly anymore.
Yeah. But there are other trains that run like the Acela and I feel like the other that are more expensive versions of Amtrak that run through the Northeast. But yeah, okay. They are like a government funded organization.
Okay, so then Greyhound is the only one that I can think of.
Yeah.
There's also monopolies for a lot of Americans that are in food deserts. So if you're in a food desert or the outskirts of a food desert, you have only one grocery store to go to. And whatever the prices are in that grocery store is what the prices are. So yeah, that can be that could be
buy it or you don't eat.
Yeah, exactly. So just want to apologize to my viewers and listeners. You probably won't catch any of this, but the viewers, you probably will. This might be a little choppy for you. We here in Grand Prairie, I have one provider, as you'll hear about later in the show, one provider for my internet, and it decided to just go in and out. So we're getting a little bit of lagginess here, but Junior and I had already rescheduled once. So we said, you know what? The people are waiting to hear from us, so we're going to be here. So let's really quick catch you up on some of the things that have happened since the last time you tuned in. We did have another bank failure. That was First Republic Bank. I'm not surprised. Just as if you were watching everything that was going on with the other two banks, Signature and SVB, First Republic stayed in the news as well, and their stock price has taken a really big hit. There was some information coming out about how they had billions of dollars that were leaving the bank, so it was no surprise that they also bit the dust. They are now part of the JP Morgan family. So thank you, Jamie Dimon. And once again, it happened over the weekend. Okay. Over the weekend. It's like you went to sleep on Friday and you were a First Republic Bank customer and you woke up on Monday and you bank at Chase now.
Isn't that crazy?
So crazy. But we got a playbook for this, Junior. We got a playbook.
You're right.
2008. That's how it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was. We went to sleep. Lehman Brothers woke up. No Lehman Brothers. What? Okay. We went to sleep. Merrill Lynch. We went to sleep on a Friday. Merrill Lynch was its own company. Monday it was like, they with Bank of America now. Like, what? Oh, okay. Okay, that's what we doing. Washington Mutual. Okay. So anyways, the list goes on.
Me, as you're speaking about this, it's just fascinating because in '08 I was 9 years old. So I remember like reading about it on like, cause I had a small little laptop when I was a kid, and I would go online and see some of this. I didn't know what was going on. I'm just hearing about the economy collapsing, the banking system is failing, all of this. I'm a 9-year-old third grader just trying to wrap my mind around it. So hearing you speak about it now and everything that I now know about the bank failures is it's fascinating seeing it unravel in real time now that I'm 24, 16 years or 15, 16 years later. It's a fascinating thing to discuss and see.
So you said you were 8 years old. You said you were 8 years old, 9 years old?
In 2008, I was 9. So
Oh,
15 years.
wait. So this is going to work out perfectly. So were you born in 2000?
99.
99.
I'm
So
24.
here's an interesting statistic for you. Hold on, put it up, make sure I get my numbers right. So you were born in 99. So since you were 2 years old in 2001, there have been 564, because last week, 564 bank failures in the United States.
Wow.
Okay. Listen, Texas, actually, funny thing about Texas, us being, our home, they were ground zero for one of the massive bank failures of the late 80s, early 90s, the savings and loan crisis. It's an interesting story. You have to look it up because they were just blindly selling this land over and over and over again. It was basically the same thing that happened in '08 and had all the savings and loans banks tied up in it. There were, I think, if memory serves me, and we'll put this in the show notes, but I want to say it was around 1,000 bank failures that happened in the late 80s to early 90s, all from the savings and loan, and Texas was ground zero.
Wow.
Okay. So the point that I want you to know, listeners, is that, or viewers, those on YouTube, good to see y'all. But the point we want you to know is that banks fail all the time.
Yeah.
They're businesses. They're run by human beings, and human beings make mistakes. They're not run by AI. That's not what's happening. It's humans. And humans make mistakes. And when it comes to finances, we typically make mistakes for one or two reasons: fear, greed. That's it. Either we were too fearful and weren't willing to take on the risk that we needed to take on so we could get what was on the other side, or we were too greedy and we took on too much risk and didn't give a lot of thought to what was going to be on the other side. So just remember, we've said this before, pay attention to FDIC. Okay. I know who's listening to this podcast. I've seen some of you in public. Okay. If you're walking around with more than $250,000 or close to $250,000 in a bank account, make sure you know that it might not be covered. We don't know if the government's going to back every single one of these banks that go belly up. We don't know that. And the FDIC is probably a little short on change. Okay. Yeah. So don't test it. If you were so blessed to have more than 250,000, that doesn't mean you're just like, I got at least 250. I don't need the other 10. No, if you don't, I know a great place that you can put it, because here in Texas, we have a councilman running for re-election in 2024. So if you like whatever, I don't need it, I'm sure he can find a great place for you to put that. So, Councilman, let's talk about just your tenure, because we spoke with you the first time when you were running, and you were the youngest ever to become a councilman in Grand Prairie. So now you've been serving for, was it 3 years? Was it a 4-year term?
3-year term. So
3-year term. So you're two into the 3.
It'll be 2 years in exactly a month from today. It'll be exactly 2 years.
Actually, by the time you're hearing this, it's probably been 2 years. So tell us, what's that 2 years been like?
Man, it's been fun. And I first want to just thank you, brother, for having me 2 years ago. Just inviting me on and giving me a platform to speak about some of the goals that we had for the city of Grand Prairie. And we've accomplished a great deal in 2 years. Definitely for me being a younger guy on the council, I've learned a lot. I've learned a great deal in 2 years on the council. I've looked at some of the older members that have been there longer than me as mentors, gaining insight and knowledge and respecting the process as well. But in 2 years, man, let me list some of the accomplishments. Well, we cut property tax for the first time in 20 years during my first 3 months on council. We cut property taxes for the first time in 20 years. We cut it again the following year. So we cut property taxes twice in the last 2 years. We've increased the homestead exemption.
Well, hold on. No, I'm a homeowner. We can pause for the applause. Cue the applause, please. Okay, thank you. Go on.
Definitely. But we increased the homestead exemption as well. And, with the homestead exemption, you save even more money on your property taxes than just with a regular property tax cut. And I want to explain this to the viewers. When you have a homestead exemption, that applies solely to people that own a home, solely to where people, their main home. So if you have a home that you use as a rental property, homestead exemption will not apply to that. But with a homestead exemption, what it does is, for example, in Grand Prairie, let's say that your home costs $100,000. A 15% homestead exemption, which we now have means that only $85,000 of your $100,000 will be taxed. So we can only tax $85,000 of value instead of the full $100,000, which will save you a good deal of funds on your property tax bill, especially for those that live in Yohance's neighborhood that have $1 million homes. We know we don't.
This one's not $1 million, but yeah, there's a couple of them around here. Yeah.
Trust me,
I know a few.
I don't live too far away, so I know the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So that'll save you a lot of money on your property taxes on the city side. Keep in mind that you pay property taxes to the city, the county, the school district, and to local districts like if you have a hospital district in your area or a community college. So there's various different areas that we pay property taxes to. So that we've done that to help our residents. And the goal is for the next 2 years to increase the homestead exemption by 2.5% until we reach the 20% cap set by the state. The state government doesn't allow us to increase the homestead exemption past 20%. But that's our goal, to provide as much tax bill savings to our residents. We've as well increased the minimum wage for all full-time city employees to $17.82 an hour because we wanted to incorporate a living wage for all of our city employees, city workers. And I'm just really proud of the direction the city's moved in. It's truly a progressive direction to make sure that if you work for the city of Grand Prairie, you're setting out so much time to serve our community and serve our residents. You deserve to be paid a more than a decent wage, a livable wage. Currently, right now, we're working to also raise the minimum wage for all part-time and seasonal employees of the city of Grand Prairie to $15 an hour. That's in the works. That should be done by God's grace by the upcoming fiscal budget in September, October. So, man, we've been moving. And that one right there, I'm really excited and passionate about because, for those kids that are working, not just kids, young people that are working at the parks and recreation centers in the city, even senior citizens that may be.
There we go. That's what I was going to point out. Yes, our retirees.
Retirees that have their Social Security checks, but want to have something on the side to provide additional income. This right here is so important, man. It's so important. So I'm glad to see the direction that our city's moving in, and I've been a big advocate pushing that behind the scenes to get it done. Another thing that I want to speak about is VIA. I know you know about VIA Grand Prairie, our microtransit ride sharing system. Because for just information to those that don't know, in Grand Prairie, we don't have any form of public transportation. We're not in DART. We don't have buses or trains in the city. So we have to find a way to try to strive for transportation equity in some form, in some fashion. With VIA Grand Prairie, we have these vans that will pick people up, not directly in front of their houses, but like right down the street, like a block away from their home, and take them anywhere in the city of Grand Prairie for $3 a ride. Anywhere in the city of Grand Prairie for $3 a ride, as well as for college students to nearby universities like UT Arlington and Tarrant County Community College for $3 a ride, and to Dallas Baptist University and Mountain View campus for $4 a ride. VIA is also currently, because we've had VIA for over a year now, we're working to expand VIA to take people to the nearby hospitals if they need to go to the hospital for a checkup or whatever, to a clinic. So hospitals like Mansfield Methodist, Medical City of Arlington, Parkland and Dallas, various hospitals in the surrounding area. That's where VIA is going to be expanded to in the next year by God's grace, to allow our residents that are not able to drive, or maybe if you don't want to drive, you want to carpool, you want to get somewhere and reduce our carbon emissions. This is a great way. This is a great path forward. So I'm very proud of our city. And we have a lot more work to do in the next year as I'm running for re-election. And then in the following 3 years, once I get reelected by God's grace and by the will of the voters. So it's been a fun ride, man, for the last 2 years. I'm just excited to keep it going and keep on moving in the right direction.
I remember you talking about VIA when you were on the show last time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I know that was something that you were very proud of, and no, that is a wonderful option, for all the reasons that you mentioned. And it took me it probably took me about 7-8 months of living here before I realized, I was like, wait a minute, where's the city bus?
Exactly.
Nowhere near.
Nothing like it.
Nowhere near. I haven't relied on public transportation in years, and I just kind of gotten immune to it. It's like when I turn the when I turn the lights on, I expect the light to turn on.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I've just always lived in a major city that had public transportation. Even when I grew up in Charlotte, so my father was a city bus driver, so I knew all the bus routes. So I'm so in tune with getting around via bus. In Los Angeles, I rode the bus a few times. It was an interesting experience. So there was buses everywhere that I lived until here, and I was like, wait a minute. Yeah. So no, that is, thank you. We appreciate you. Your constituents appreciate you.
I'm glad to
So
serve,
I
man.
have a few questions for you. Of course, I had to tell some of your other constituents that are here in the neighborhood that I was speaking with you today. So got some questions for the councilman. They asked if you were running for re-election. I said, yeah, but I was thinking that it was this year, and so were they. So these things can evolve. So the first one has to do, this has been in the news, AI. What role do you see AI playing in the future of local government, and how do you plan to leverage it for the constituents?
That's a fantastic question. So for me, I'm going to give a selfish answer first, and then I'll talk about the city.
Okay.
AI, I think we have to be very careful with AI. Number one, AI terrifies me in the sense that people are able to create these videos and speeches of an elected official or a candidate that's
Oh, wait,
running.
actually, hold on. Time out. How do I
Okay.
know you're you? See, now you got me scared.
Exactly.
See,
You see what
hold
I'm saying?
on. I'm in.
How do you know? How do you know? It is quite fascinating with AI. No, but seriously, man, because people can make a video posing as me. All they need to have is just my recording and have my cadence down as to how I speak, and just be able to create this same image and have me say some wild, ludicrous things that I would never say. At least I wouldn't say publicly, right? So that is, it's a really interesting thing. So I think first and foremost, we need the federal government to step in some form or some fashion to create some regulations and regulate it to some extent. But for the city and local governing bodies, I think AI can really help the cities when it comes to efficiency and functioning in a more efficient manner, getting things done, streamlining a lot more processes. But this is as we're learning about AI more, understanding how we can utilize it in our city. a big fear for anybody that has a job and for what is called unskilled labor across America, in any city, in any state, any county, whatever, is that AI is going to cause a lot of jobs to go extinct. Because when we're creating more efficient processes, that means that less manual labor will be required. When it's coming to, like, for example, if we're on Google Sheets or on Excel, when we need to put in and plug in those different formulas to get answers from a
Mhm.
sheet or whatever, with AI, it can
You
run
do it all
those
for
numbers,
you. Yep.
yeah,
Mhm.
immediately, and without a data scientist or data analyst to look
And
at it.
AI can make work schedules. AI can do bus routes, or for your via. It can come up with the most efficient routes. There's a lot it can do that people do right now, and that is scary for a lot of people. And so my advice to the people are, that's just like saying, oh no, we're going to get replaced by computers. No, we just still run the computer. So you have to learn how to speak the language of the computer if you want to stay competitive. That's all it comes down to. We had to learn how to use the stuff that we're using right now in order to stay competitive. I'm old enough to learn how to type on a typewriter.
Yeah.
Most of you listeners, you've only seen them in movies, but yes, they were real things.
Once upon a time, back in the golden age, right?
I had a word processor that had 2 lines of digital text in it. So I'd be typing the paper and those 2 lines of digital text, and I got to say it's a 2-page paper. You know how long you got to hold the down button to scroll through those 2 lines of digital text to find the paragraph? You're like, screw it, I'm just going to hit the print button and then just go read and proofread it that way. But then you're wasting paper, and your mom was yelling at you because she's already bought 2 cartridges this week. See, it triggered me. Anywho, back to AI. But I agree with you.
So something that you just brought up is a great point about people going back and gaining skills, re-educating themselves, and making themselves more marketable. Another idea, and this is something that we definitely have to incorporate in all legislative bodies, regardless of the city, county, state, federal government, creating programs and opportunities for people that are already working in these positions to increase their skills, like whether it's going to trade schools or going and getting certifications, get certificates, because unfortunately, not everybody can afford to go and pay a couple $1,000s. Like I have friends that are trying to get tech certifications, paying a couple $1,000s or however much money to go through the class and get a certificate. So maybe making this part of a benefit from having this job, that we want you to have a continual education so you can expand upon the knowledge that you have to make you more marketable in a future that is going to be here sooner than we expect, sooner than later.
Do city employees get free community college?
I don't believe in the city of Grand Prairie. I don't believe so. I'll have to.
Why not? Why not?
It's just a policy that we've never implemented. We haven't.
I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there because you just said. I mean, it's like with the minimum wage.
Yeah.
You know, there's a federal minimum wage, and employers will basically enact themselves around the federal minimum wage until the state puts in the minimum wage, and employers will enact themselves around that. But just as you were talking about earlier about raising the minimum wage for city workers,
yeah,
I mean, that does put competition on the rest of the geographic community, because to employ someone, I mean, if it's the same job, whether it's private or public, but it's the same job, let's just use, I don't know, manager. It's the same. If you're a manager of people and it's the same job and the city's going to pay more than you named the private company, I mean, you could do the same thing with education.
You're right. You're right.
The city, if this, because the question was the role of AI in, you know, just overall in the local governments. And like you said, one of the biggest things that you have to be concerned about is security. Yeah. And protecting the city's intellectual property. So the faster that the city employees are educated on those roles, the more secure the city can be, in my opinion.
I agree. And it's possible that the city is already offering some form of continual education. I just have to go and find out. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking like, because we have a problem that I'm very aware of, and I deal with clients all the time. And we have a problem with the cost of education. And there's way too many people with way too much student debt because the cost of schooling is so tremendous. And we are made to think that the community college isn't good enough. Okay. Yeah. When so many people could have saved hundreds of thousands of dollars if they just went to community college for 2 years first. So if the city had a program where if I'm a city employee, I can go to community college for free, you're going to have people lined up outside the door to work for the city.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And I get 2 years of community college. We can talk on that a lot. All right. So there was another question that I wanted to get to because we're almost out of time here. It's always a great conversation with you, sir. There were a few, but there was one that I liked the best. It was, well, see, this was more one of the election year thing, but it doesn't matter. You're in the role, so you're doing the work. So what are the top 3 issues facing our community, and what steps are you taking to address them?
Number 1, I'll speak about is infrastructure, and we've dealt with it just on this call right here. So infrastructure is always going to be a major thing, especially with a city like Grand Prairie, where we are over 200,000 people now and are going to continue to grow. I know you've probably heard about it, but just down south, further south from where you live, in our ETJ, which we're annexing, and we're slowly annexing it over the next 5 5 to 10 years. We have a lot of land being developed in the Johnston and Ellis County part of Grand Prairie that's not currently in our city's limits at the moment. About 30 to 40,000 homes are going to be built in the next 10 to 20 years down there. It's already started. So all of these people are going to have city resources. So city, of course, our water and everything, our fire, police department, roads, maintenance, all of that is going to have to be brought down there as well. Keep in mind, we already have 200,000 people up here, not to mention the issues that we deal with on the peninsula when it comes to Atmos energy, which we've been working to resolve a lot of issues that are continual. We deal with, I live in Lake Parks West, just about 8 minutes from you. We deal with it too. We'll come back to that.
Wait, how long was your power out during the big storm?
About 3 days.
Okay, we're in the same boat. Okay,
yeah,
we're in 3.5 days. 3.5 days. Yeah.
One of the most frustrating things. Thank God it happened before I got on council, though. It happened before I got elected, so I didn't have to answer those calls. I got to find out why it happened and try to prevent it for the next time. And then we had another issue, but luckily that was less than a day than the 3 days that we had before. Don't hate me too much. So yeah, infrastructure. The beautiful thing is, shout out to President Biden and the Democrats and the Republicans that did pass the bipartisan infrastructure bill back in 2021, December 2021. That's going to bring a lot of money to cities, counties, states to rebuild our roads and bridges, increase access to broadband internet coverage, affordable, like we talked about earlier, affordable internet coverage for people that are in underserved communities and people that can't afford to pay the market rate for internet and cellular service, as well as money for airports, ports, shipping ports, and just various different things to deal with infrastructure in the country. So when I was in DC about a month and a half ago, we were advocating to our members of Congress, asking them to support us in getting some of this money to come directly to our city, because we have to ask for it through grants. You ask for it through grants, through the processes, as well as in the appropriations process, you can ask for the dollars through the budget, the federal budget. So we're trying to bring those dollars here to make sure that we're improving our roads, streets, and bridges, because in other parts of Grand Prairie, some people deal with a lot of potholes or deal with cracks in the roads or deal with roads that just aren't up to par. So we're working on that.
Ground is always moving in Texas.
Oh, 100%.
It doesn't move fast like in California, but it's moving. It is actively moving. It is.
How long have you lived in Texas?
5 years.
5 years. So have you ever driven down to Austin before?
Oh yeah, many times.
Okay, so you know about Waco. They've been doing this I-35 construction. I've been driving down there for about 7 years now, since I was 16, 8 years ago now. But I've been driving down to Austin and coming back for about 7-8 years now, and the construction has never ended. So in Texas, we're always building something on the roads. We're always doing something. So it's continued. It never ends, right? So in Grand Prairie, we're definitely focused on getting those federal dollars, spending them to continue to improve our community, whether it's broadband, it's streets, roads, and bridges, just basic infrastructure needs, and preparing for the tens of thousands of people that are going to move into our city in the future. That's just the reality. Another thing that we've done, another place that we focus is making sure that minority-owned businesses have an opportunity to not only survive in the city, but to thrive in the city and get city contracts. Councilmember Kurt Johnson and myself and Jack Winhead and 3 African Americans that are serving on the city council, as well as our other council members that are doing a fantastic job. We have been pushing for different programs that we've created, that we brought through the city to support our Black-owned businesses, our Hispanic-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, small businesses, regardless. So they have the resources to be able to bid on city contracts. We're looking even in the future, eventually, it kind of gets tied up in litigation, but trying to set out a certain percentage of city contracts to be specifically for minority-owned businesses. These are different ways that we're trying to create a more equitable world where if you can do the job, you should have an opportunity to get some of those city dollars, regardless of what background you're in, regardless of who knows you in the city, regardless of where you're coming from. And that's something that we've been working on. And I think you said a third place to improve. I think What was your question again?
Yeah, it was 3, but I think those were 2 good ones. I don't
Yeah.
think you need a third. Those are.
I think a third one, just being honest about it, is what a great city that we have right now and the continual development and growth, making sure that young people that grow up here come back here and live here. Because I mean, a fear that I've always had is that, and I have friends, they'll grow up in Grand Prairie, Arlington, Mansfield, wherever, these suburbs, and they'll try to get apartments in downtown Dallas or in the Dallas area to be closer to the really fun places to live, right?
The nightlife. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
nightlife. Yeah. But Grand Prairie, we have nightlife coming. We have a lot of fun events coming. We have Andretti's coming along the what is it? The 161 corridor, Big Shots, Vidora. We have the Finch, a lot of nice restaurants, a lot of nice entertainment that's coming into the city.
Oh,
So
you can't talk about Big Shots because you told me you're not ready to golf yet.
I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna play big shot. I can do big shots. I can do that.
You can do okay, got it. So the councilman and I got into a conversation about monopolies and how America is not supposed to be anti-monopoly. And I think you said, in theory, I believe is what you said. No, you said you changed, you corrected, you improved it to.
Yeah, we're nominally
anti-monopoly. And then you said that T-Mobile and Sprint should have never been allowed to merge.
Yeah, 100%. Shouldn't have been able to.
And I want to push. Go ahead. Give your reason. Give your reason.
Go ahead. Yeah, I was gonna say the reason that I believe that is we looked at it. What is it? 2 years ago, whenever Sprint was still operating as its own entity. What is it? T-Mobile, Sprint, AT&T, Verizon, the top 4 major internet, cellular data, cellular outlets, companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have Metro PCS, you have all these smaller ones that service is not on that level yet. But Sprint,
they're the prepaid service. So Sprint, T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon have a postpaid service, meaning you got to have reasonable credit in order to have a postpaid account. But then you have Metro PCS, Boost Mobile, Cricket.
Yeah.
What's the one that what's his name? He just got bought too. The Marvel character, Deathpool, him. Ryan Reynolds.
Oh,
okay. So Mint Mobile, I think it is. Mint Mobile. Yeah, Mint Mobile.
What I will tell you, with AT&T, I've had AT&T for probably over a decade now, and I have a prepaid plan on AT&T, which is just cheaper than the postpaid plan.
It is cheaper. You're right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just cheaper. But I see what you're saying. I personally don't believe that the federal government, the FCC, should have allowed Sprint and T-Mobile to merge. Allowing those two to be independent allowed for increased competition, cheaper prices as a whole for people that are lower income. I like something that the federal government did in the infrastructure bill that passed over a year ago that allows for people that are low income to have subsidies that reduce their prices for their internet and their cellular data. But we're not even doing that. We just allowed the free market to do its job, and we had our regulations from the feds. T-Mobile and Sprint should have never been able to merge. They should have remained individual companies to allow for competition to continue for those not lower tier, but cheaper plans.
Got it. So I hear you, and I believe that cell phones have become a utility. You know, very few people have a home phone. I mean, having a cell phone is almost as much of a right as having running water in your home, because not having the means for communication could be the difference in life and death. So just as not having clean water could be the difference in life and death. I understand the financially, I get the finances of the merger. And I still believe that the prepaid service is still out there and an option. I mean, and all the prepaid services are just piggybacking on somebody else's data anyways. They're on Verizon, they're on AT&T, or they're on,
but the quality of data is not meeting what the postpaid services offer.
Yeah, no, that's true. No, if because you're prepaid and I'm postpaid, I don't have AT&T, but if I did, theoretically, if we were both in a crowded like stadium, then I would get network preference over you.
Yeah, you should, because you're
So,
paying.
but
You're paying more. You
yeah,
should, in theory, right?
in theory,
Yeah.
I don't. Oh man, that's a can of worms. Well,
Yeah,
we thank you, Councilman.
but a point that you made I really like is the fact that you talked about it being a utility that is almost necessary, not for life or death matters, but just for you to get ahead in this country or have a job, go to work, go to school. We need to have a cell phone. Why are we allowing corporations to get to a space? I mean, I'm just imagining, God forbid, one day AT&T and Verizon did a merger. That's going to destroy the marketplace, where these companies can almost charge us whatever they want to charge us. I think is it my signal now? It is my signal.
Oh, we heard you though. We heard you. We couldn't see you, but we heard you. We had you.
I was just saying that since you said it's a utility, something that we do need to be able to go to work, go to school, or do whatever we're doing in this 21st century society that we live in. My fear is that one day Verizon and AT&T or Verizon and T-Mobile will decide, hey, 15, 20 years ago, T-Mobile and Sprint merged together and there wasn't that much pushback. Let's merge Verizon and AT&T or Verizon and T-Mobile together, and we can raise the prices to whatever we want to give people decent cellular coverage. And what's going to happen then? What are we going to say? Companies should be allowed to do whatever they want because they're providing a service that's a utility? Nah, that's not fair. That's not fair to the to the consumer. And the job of the government.
But the electric companies and water companies charge us whatever they want.
We should have. I'm with you, brother. We need to. Okay. They should break up these companies. They should break them up and drive competition. It's vital. It's important because who's going to pay? Who pays the cost for uncompetitive prices? The consumer does. The corporation just brings in a lot of bread, and we're giving them the bread.
They bring in a lot of bread.
We don't have a lot of bread. Yeah, it's just like with Obama in certain states, right? Certain states that never allowed Medicaid expansion. A lot of these states, like I think in Arizona, New Mexico, not New Mexico, like Arizona, for example, back in the day. I'm not sure if they've expanded it now that they have a Democratic governor, but in certain parts of Arizona, there will be only one private insurer. And if you don't qualify for Medicaid, you have to go to that private insurer. And that private insurer can charge you whatever premiums, whatever deductible, whatever prices they want to, because they're the only game in town. They're the only show in town. So if you want to be covered, you got to play ball with them, or if you don't play ball with them, you'll be uninsured, and you're on your own to figure it out.
Speaking of, thank you for bringing that up. Coming up in, I think it's next month, we have a special treat. We have Dr. Shaw, who is running for Congress in Arizona, who will be a friend of the podcast. So thank you for mentioning something that I get to talk to him about as a doctor. Whew, I'm sure he has some things to say.
That'll be interesting.
Sure he does. That. Indeed. Man, it has been an amazing time with you, sir. I am so grateful. You do get the green jacket as the returning guest for the show. Man, we had so much today. We talked about monopolies. We talked about the bank failures, and we talked about just some of the struggles that I've had with infrastructure. And we also heard what our leaders here in the community are working hard every day to make it better. So we appreciate you, all of you that do the noble work that you do. I do want to take this moment to encourage you to get involved in your local community. Okay. Get involved in it's your community. Get involved in your local community. There's so many different ways that you can do it. Find a way, make a way, and get involved. Junior, thank you for spending some time on the Money Script podcast. We will see you next time. I can't remember who's coming up next. I did talk about Dr. Shaw's coming. That's like a month out, but I believe there's some other stuff coming. I don't know. There's been some good stuff cooking. We're going to keep cooking it. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up, or what is it? No, stars. Just say we're good. But above all else, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next time on the Money Script podcast.